Well, I will say this is that I've been doing comedy mostly on the road because I'm a road comic,
Sure.
club comic. But I didn't think this comedy boom would go so long. I mean,
Yeah.
like when I started, it was kind of the comedy bust. It was
Yeah.
the Dust Bowl times, so it was really kind of it was kind of bleak.
Yeah.
And it was not a big deal. But now I think it's off to the races.
Yeah,
am I right?
it's bigger than it's ever been. It's crazy. Yeah.
It is really big, and I was stupid to put all that effort into juggling. 'Cause I figured it would be, what's the next art form that needs some attention?
It's not the fire sticks we're going to take off.
Something fire sticks, maybe even ventriloquism might come back. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But I've been doing it for a long time, and you guys have seen what I do. It's not just like dumb jokes, basically. And,
One of the best, baby.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Hey, well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And in this world where everybody is a critic, I of course have the filter up a bit. But back in the day, in the roaring '90s, pretty much anything went.
Sure, yeah, it was lawless.
It was a good time,
Uh-huh.
and I could totally see why people are the way things are now. But it was definitely more fun back then.
Of course. Yeah. It
Understandable.
was more raucous.
Raucous, bawdy,
Dave, take us back a little bit further. Mom
Sure.
and dad, brothers, sisters. What are we talking about here? Where in Long Island?
All of the pronouns.
Okay.
All in one house.
They, them.
I'm from originally South Shore, Long Island, and I grew up in a family business, which is I don't know if you guys are into Bridal, but my dad had a bridal shop. I worked there.
Okay.
My mom worked there.
Wow.
At one point, all of my brothers worked there. My grandpa worked there. At one point, my grandpa worked for me because I was head of shipping and receiving.
Okay.
And he worked for me. So at at that point, he was in his 80s, and I was 17. So it was really a weird thing. And I sold shoes and tuxes, for
Oh, shit, yeah.
weddings and stuff like that. And, as a boy, of course, being close to all of that femininity.
Sure.
I mean, really, you had to fight the urge, jumping teams. But I was going to say, at night I would clean the store. It was just me and the mannequins.
All right, fair enough.
At what age did you start working? Was it young?
Oh, yeah, like
Yeah.
around 16.
And
Yeah, you got
your
him.
dad opened this store out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had
busy,
our own
I
business.
assume.
No, it actually fell apart when we lost our house. So it's like one of those stories. But
Thanks for bringing that up, Fatty.
no, I don't mind. I don't mind getting into it. The guy put everything he had into it, and that's just sometimes how it goes. But
Okay.
I will say one thing is that it did help me like learn to talk to people,
Sure.
that kind of thing, and having to deal with. Like these crazy brides, the bridezillas and all that kind of stuff. And also the guys like, with the tuxes, like, when it would go out, it would look totally different when it came back.
Sure. Yeah.
Like covered in puke and other
Yeah, blood and
fluids.
stuff.
We're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
what? Early '80s? When
Yeah,
when are you working
I would
there?
say early 80s. And then,
Man,
then
a
I
Long
went
Island
to
wedding.
college. I went to NYU.
Did you?
And,
Did you
yeah,
really?
I didn't
did.
know that.
I just really wanted out of the house. I was a terrible student, but
What'd you major in?
protesting. They had 3 majors back then. No, film and television.
Okay.
And it's funny because like the cellar is right by there.
Yeah.
So when I see these kids walking around in their bubble, and I was never like those kids because, once I went to go see stand up, I really was like, oh man, this is so cool. But I didn't think I could do it, or I didn't think I was going to do it, or anything like that. And then I kind of like jumped into it, like open mic style. And, but the cellar was right there. So I would go see like Alan Havey and Colin Quinn.
Sure.
And there were so many like great legends of comedy that were like working at that point. But comedy itself was like kind of bleak. And, by the time I got into it, it was pretty much death. And I used to work at the old original Improv in Midtown.
Uh-huh.
And that was run by Silver Saunders Friedman, who was Bud Friedman's ex-wife. And I'm sure the comedy fans out there know this, but there was a divorce. Bud went west, and Silver kept the New York club.
Yeah.
And Bud's club went on to great success, and the New York one was pretty much
Turned into a pizza
it
shop.
flamed
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
It really flamed out. But that's a place where I learned a lot about like what not to do in comedy, pretty much. Where like you guys will get this, where there's a lot of guys who were pretty much waiting on a sitcom, so they didn't put much work into their act. So they go up there, do the same set, and then get drunk and high.
Yeah.
And I always said to myself, since I work on the door, I'm like, if I ever get that stage time, I'm gonna like do something
yeah,
new.
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So that's what I always said to myself, and I try and like live by that creed, I guess. But that's where I saw Bill Hicks for the first time, and
shit.
all these different people. And then back in the day, there were clubs that you probably wouldn't wouldn't realize, but like stand up in New York was rocking.
I remember even
took
when
me years to get in there.
Yeah,
years.
Yeah, even
The
when we
Cellar.
moved here, it was the stand up New York was the
Yeah, it
place
was
to be.
popping.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know what it is now, a paint store or something, but it's still out there. And what was some of the other ones there? Like the Comedy Store, like, I never got in there. It took a long time to get in there.
Really?
I was working in the other club with Rick Newman. I'm losing the name now because I'm old, but
Catch.
Catch a Rising Star,
There you
which
go.
was like another one. That's where like Adam Sandler and all those guys would play, and I would watch them, and I was like, this is so cool. But at that point, all these clubs were slowly on the downtrend. So I guess the one that you guys also would know is Caroline's. Is just
Sure,
how
of course.
big Caroline's was. So that was a big pop for me when I finally got to play all these clubs and I was a regular. But it was definitely it wasn't like a straight path to the middle.
Was this in college you started? So
No, after college.
After
and I had
college.
jobs, and I thought I was going to join the Navy. I was going to do a lot of different things, but I never committed to comedy until, like, I'd say my late 20s, where it's like I did it every night. I did every open mic you could. I would go to work. I lived in Brooklyn. I would come back in the city. I would, do my open mics and I'd go back. So it's like one of those kind of things for years and years and years, but I never thought this would be my job. I thought, like, eventually I would have to, get another job.
Of course.
And back then it was a different type of comedy. There was no spectrum. There was just, odd people. And, to be honest, it was a lot more fun. I think that the guys that I started with, a lot of them went on to great success. Some of them are still doing comedy. Some of them have moved on to movies and television and all that kind of stuff. But at the very beginning of it, it was just like, just trying to be as funny as you can. And like, sure, it's very political getting these clubs and all that kind of stuff. But the whole idea was like, I sucked for a long time. So it was really cool that like I was able to do it kind of under the radar, not like now where people kind of like immediately their first set is right up on TikTok.
Yeah.
You know.